Hey, what's going on, GameLeapers? Long time no see. This is Ease. And the 13.1b patch notes have been released on the League of Legends website, so we're going to go through them in today's video. Now, these changes won't actually be released for a couple of days, that's what Ryder said. But for now, what we can actually see are the changes to the champions that we didn't actually know what was happening to them from like a week ago when they announced who is getting buffed and nerfed. So that's what we'll be tackling and addressing and revealing in today's video. So guys, make sure you stay tuned for the whole thing, of course, to know exactly what these changes are going to be. We'll also talk about a couple of items that are getting buffed and nerfed, but it should be a super exciting patch. But just before we do get into the video, one thing you guys have to do before you get into your next game is to download the POROFESSOR app linked in the description, because it allows you to quickly import the best rune page used from the best players in the world on the champion you're picking. You don't have to make the rune page, just one click of a button and bang, you're ready to go. But that's not all, because the app also allows you to scout your opponents, and the app will give you their stats, how well they play their champion, so you can know more about your opponent than they know about themselves. And the app also gives you an in-game overlay, so you can compare your CS and your kill participation to your rank or even challenger players like Faker. And there's a reason why 3 million people have downloaded this free application, guys. It's because it works. So get around it in Season 12. Those links are in the description. Now, starting off, let's talk about GP. Now, GP is getting nerfed here. The reason GP is getting nerfed is because crit, so the AD carry items to Infinity Edge, Navori Quick Blades, these are getting some really big buffs, right? So GP, because you can't go crit, is getting nerfed preemptively here. So what's happening is your AD growth is getting nerfed, even though it says it's getting increased here on the actual patch notes, but it is getting nerfed from 4 to 3.7. Also, your powder keg, the crit in this is getting nerfed. This is probably like the biggest damage, right? Like when you have crit on GP, your kegs deal so much damage, like you'll one-shot people. So this is just like a heads up, I guess, for GP players. The balance team are obviously expecting GP to be really OP if you build crit now, because Infinity Edge, Navori, they're spiking off 40% crit and not 60%, so your 2-item spike is going to be kind of nutty. So if there are any GP players out there, let me know what you think of these changes in the comments. Now, moving on, we have Heimerdinger who's getting nerfed, and you might be like, why on earth is the Donger getting nerfed? Well, it's really just pro play. Like, ever since Beryl pulled this out in the World Champs last year, Heimerdinger has not been touched, right? And in the bot lane, there are very few champions who can actually answer to the Heimerdinger. So there might be like a Syndra pick, maybe Lux does okay, Xerath probably does well, Senna might be good, even Jhin. You've seen Jhin support, I'm sure. That's one of the main reasons you pick Jhin, is into Heimerdinger. But even with these picks, they're not really like actual true support champions and can't go toe-to-toe with Heimerdinger. This tech has just been so OP for so long, and Ryder finally nerfing it. So as far as your turret HP goes, this is getting decreased at every single level, and also your W's initial magic damage, this is getting nerfed as well, the base damage, by 10 at each rank. But the AP ratio is going up here, I should say that. So in the mid to late game, you will actually scale and still deal decent damage with your micro rockets. So those are the Donger nerfs, and they should see him picked a lot less in pro play. And it is maybe kind of a shame, because of course, if you're playing Heimerdinger in solo queue and mid and top lane, this will affect you. Unlucky. Now, Kassadin is getting nerfed, finally. But honestly, this nerf, I mean, the cooldown on your E is important, right? Your Force Pulse. So it's going up the cooldown at each rank, right? So from rank 2, it's up 1 second. Rank 3, 2 seconds. Rank 4, 3 seconds. And then rank 5, 4 seconds, right? But honestly, I'm not sure, like, if this is going to change that much for Kassadin, because even in pro play at the moment, he's being picked. Like, even in the first 3 picks, you're seeing Kassadin picked. Like, as soon as you see some sort of magic damage, just lock this guy in, because his laning phase is kind of secure-ish now. You can start D-Shield, right? You have the regen, and by getting your E first now and maxing this first, you can actually survive the laning phase a lot easier. So maybe increasing Force Pulse's cooldown, I can kind of see where Ryder coming from, but the champion with Rod of Ages, Seraph Embrace, these 2 items that have been buffed in 13.1, they're not getting nerfed at all in 13.2, and that's pretty much it for Cass. That's all you have to worry about, and is it really a worry? Honestly, probably not. So Kassadin, I still think, is going to be Giga OP. Now, Kindred. Q-based damage is being decreased, and exactly the same as GP, right? Kindred, because you can build crit, Kraken Slayer into Infinity Edge, Kraken Slayer into Navori. Doesn't actually sound like too amazing, but hey, you might want to build it, and if you do build one of those items, well, right again are just nerfing your Q. But nothing to do with crit here, they're just nerfing the physical damage your Q is dealing by 10. The scaling is remaining the same, so you'll still be a really good mid to late game champion, and I don't really think this is going to impact Kindred too much in terms of the crit goes, right? Because of those changes I've mentioned. But in the early game, obviously because the base damage is down, this is actually kind of like a big nerf to your Q, so Kindred will be less of a force in the early going in the jungle, and less snowbally probably as a result. Now, Lilia, a champion who got kind of decimated by the changes Riot gave her or the nerfs Riot gave her a few patches ago, well, they're actually buffing her now by quite a lot. So your AP scaling in your passive, this is increasing, right? Also, the AP scaling in your Q, the AP ratio, is also improving as well. The base damage is staying the same though. And finally, your E, your swirl seed, well, the magic damage, the base damage is staying the same, but there's a big AP ratio improvement here, going from 45% to 60%. And also the actual cooldown now decreases with rank as well. So instead of being 16 seconds at all ranks, it's going down from 16 seconds to 14 seconds. So really big mid to late game buffs for Lilia. It might be a little bit annoying playing her in the early game where you actually get to this point where all of these buffs will, come to fruition, I guess. Well, we'll have to wait and see, but these are definitely buffs. So hopefully, because of these, Lilia will be more playable in the jungle. Now, moving down to the bot lane here, we have Lucian, who's been so popular in pro play. Even when they nerfed the interaction you had with Nami, when you went electrocute Nami with Aerie and then Lucian pair next to her is such a deadly combo, right? She's picked like all the time, and because of that, Lucian's picked all the time in pro play. So what Riot are doing here is actually just nerfing your base mana. Now, even though your mana growth and mana regeneration growth are getting buffs, your base mana and base mana regen are going down. So in the early game, this will actually mean, well, you just have to be a bit more thoughtful when you spam your abilities, right? But honestly, this doesn't look like too huge. You will still be able to play Lucian. There's no damage nerfs or anything like this, or cooldown nerfs or something like that. I still think it'll be more than playable, but the big nerf is coming up soon, and we'll talk about the Nami nerfs after we talk about Maokai. So for Maokai, your Q bonus damage to monsters, this is getting decreased. Now, they did actually buff this significantly, right? And that's why your clear speed has gone up through the roof, and why Maokai has really become viable. So they're nerfing this, the bonus damage to monsters, well, it's going down by 20 damage at each rank. Now, this is obviously important because Maokai at the moment, you start with your Q, so clearing camps will just be harder, right? Now, also, your E sapling toss, the magic damage is decreasing here because, well, who has not walked into a brush and they've seen a sapling? It's like the scariest thing in the world, right? When you're running away from one, because you know you're going to lose half your HP. If Maokai has Demonic Embrace and he's got that sapling with the extra damage because it's in a brush running at you, you know you're in trouble. So this is getting nerfed. So the AP ratio is getting nerfed. It's scaling less also of Maokai's bonus HP, and the empowered sapling damage is also getting nerfed in terms of the AP scaling ratio and also the bonus HP that it gets from Maokai himself. So those are some pretty hefty nerfs to Maokai in the jungle. We'll have to see if he's actually still going to be broken. But speaking of broken, moving down to the bot lane again, we're talking about Nami. So we just talked about Lucian. So Nami, your W is getting adjusted, and also your E's base damage is getting decreased. So for your W, the actual base damage is going down by 10. Nice change. But the AP ratio is going up by 5%. So it's kind of like more fine-tuned towards your identity, right? You're a mid to late game kind of enchanter, because that's pretty much what every enchantress is, right? You want to get to the mid to late game so your teammates just don't die from your healing and your utility. But they've also nerfed your Tide Caller's Blessing, so the actual bonus magic damage per hit, this is down by 5 the base damage. The AP scaling is still the same, but this is kind of like really the big thing I think for Lucian lanes. The actual on hit you have as Lucian when you have this on you is just absolutely crazy. And no doubt the W is going to affect you as well. So will this actually push out Nami and Lucian in pro play? We'll have to wait and see. These are nerfs, but are they going to be big enough? Because there aren't many like really oppressive bot lanes apart from Lucian and Nami. So maybe it just brings them into line with everyone else. Again, we'll have to wait and see. Orianna, getting changed. Your passive damage. This is getting unchanged. It's just like kind of a tidy up thing, I guess. Now, your Q's attack, the command attack. This is dealing 100% damage to the first target, and then it's getting reduced to 70% to every single enemy hit after that. This is going to be actually just nicer in terms of clearing minion waves, because on the whole, you will be dealing more damage to them. So Orianna's wave clear as a result of this is going to be better. Also, maybe in terms of actual poking the enemy champion, especially if they're a ranged champion during the laning phase, this will deal more damage as well. Now, your command dissonance, your W, the mana cost going down from rank 2 onwards. Your W does cost a lot of mana, and if you don't have like Seras or even blue buff, you can go very quickly by just spamming QW on repeat, right? So this going down is nice for the mid to late game. Now, the biggest change for Ori is to your command shockwave. The base damage is going up by 50 at rank 1, 75 at rank 2, to 100 at rank 3. So when you're level 16, boom, it's going to be like a nuclear bomb type shockwave. Also, the AP ratio is going up 10%. So again, level 16, boom, you are going to one-shot everyone on the enemy team with this. And I think pro players looking at these notes are really going to start salivating. Now, moving on to Rise, another mid lane mage. So your base magic resist is getting decreased. Rise against magic damage champions, it's almost like he just takes none. So your magic resistance is going down from 36 to 32. Also, your passive AP scaling is decreasing. So this means that the increased maximum mana you get, 10% per 100 AP, going down to 6%. This affects your mid to late game, of course, and because you deal damage based on the mana you have, this will affect, again, your mid to late game damage. So these are definitely nerfs to Rise, but honestly, he will still be picked in pro play. I don't think they're big enough to remove him off the rift. Moving on to Udyr. Your Q's AD scaling is getting decreased, your attack speed is getting increase though, but also Udyr at the moment, right, because they did like nerf, I guess, Prowler's Claw Udyr with Halo Blades, your R's base damage is getting decreased, right? So when you're maxing your R with a Demonic Embrace Rush, so oppressive, like so oppressive, so that's what they're nerfing. The actual damage per tick is going down by 1 at rank 2, 2 at rank 3, 3 at rank 4, 4 at rank 5, 5 at rank 6. But the actual bonus attack speed you're getting from your Q, well, this just makes you, yeah, more attack speed based, of course, rather than just like one-shot someone because of the actual physical damage. I think that's actually a really good change for Udyr, and the R changed as well. It did need turning down a little bit. It's a bit too OP. Now, speaking of OP, well, not really OP, but a champion who's been put in the garbage disposal unit in 13.1b, this is Yuumi. Now, I actually said, like in our last video, I think it was, I said, bro, the only way like Riot solve Yuumi is by deleting her. Look at these changes here. I'm not even going to read them out to you. I want you guys to pause the video if you want to read through them. You guys know that when you read these changes, the champion is pretty much deleted. Like seriously, she has a 45% win rate in like every single elo, but because she's picked so much in pro play, the champion is honestly like the hardest thing to balance right now. Like we've had Ryze in the past who's really hard, and other champions, of course, Riot have had to be careful with. This one is impossible. Get rid of her. Like seriously, that's the only way to fix this champion, or just make it so you can't attach to a champion. Like actually make her a real champion, and she might be healthy for the game, and yeah, not unhealthy to balance. So those are the Yuumi changes. Just pretty much have in your head, she's going to be useless. Now a champion who won't be useless, this is Zoe. So your E is now going to reduce, listen to this, the opponent's magic resist when they are asleep. And when you land your sleepy bubble trouble, oh my goodness, people are going to get one shot. This really brings back Zoe into like play, because in pro play she's really not picked at all, even into control mages like Azir, Victor, Syndra, who are picked like all the time, even Ryze, right? Zoe does insanely well because you outpush them, but the issue is even if you land an E, you're not one-shotting them. So this is going to be massive, and I think this is a really nice change for any Zoe main out there. The other changes, guys, I just want to talk about, well, we've talked about pretty much every single one of them. So if you want to know what the fighter item changes are, if you want to know what the AD carry adjustments are, check out our video that we made specifically for that. But the other changes I want to talk about here are to Grievous Wounds. So Oblivion Orb, the AP is going down to 30, so this is the 800 gold AP item, but the Grievous Wounds, so the anti-healing, going from 25% to 40%. Massive. This makes this item now actually rushable. Like if you're playing against, even in like the mid lane or top lane, right? Anyone with any sort of healing, if it's Grasp in the top lane. In the mid lane, you might be playing against something like a Vladimir or a Silas. In the bot lane, you might be playing against Yuumi, Soraka, right? Sona, one of these champions. You can actually rush this now. It just looks so efficient too, because 40% is huge. Now, people might not be healing that much in the early game, but for an 800 gold item to have 40%, it just looks really worth it on paper. And because Oblivion Orb is getting changed, Chemtep, Putrefy, and Morellos are getting changed as well. So for the Putrefy, so the actual build path is changing. So it's going from Bandle Glass Mirror to Forbidden Idol and then 700 gold. And the total cost now is going to be 2,300, not 2,500. So 200 gold decrease. But the ability power is going down by 20. The ability haste is going down by 5. But the increase, listen to this, the increased healing and shielding strength from 0% to 8%. Really nice for enchantresses, right? So this really makes it just like a specific bot lane item. You could maybe honestly think about building this like if you're playing mid Karma or maybe mid, well, I'm trying to think of another one. But yeah, Lulu maybe, Lulu Karma mid lane if you really are going to play that Seraphine as well, right? Might become a bit more viable, so that's kind of interesting. And for Morellos, your HP, so the HP from the item going down by 100, that's pretty big, but you're getting magic penetration now, going from 0 to 10. Flat, and your Grievous Wounds, again, going from 25% to 40%. Now, there are two other Grievous Wounds items, okay? So Executioner's Calling is the attack damage one. So this is really going to be useful for top laners, right? So attack damage down by 5, but the Grievous Wounds 25% to 40%. So if you're playing against Fiora with Grasp, Jax with Grass, Dr. Mundo, Vladimir, these champions, Darius, right? It seems like every champion in the top lane loves a bit of healing. Executioners, you can easily get this early on. This might even define the meta. Like, honestly, I think these changes are kind of huge, and they are definitely going to hit champions with innate healing in their kit. So look out for this. Now, because Executioners is getting changed, Chempunk is getting changed as well. Well, honestly, it's just like saying exactly the same as Executioners. Attack damage is down by 5 Grievous Wounds, 25% to 40%. Now, Mortal Reminder is getting some big changes. So there's going to be no more attack speed, right, in Mortal Reminder. So you're getting this purely for attack damage and also armor penetration and Grievous Wounds now. So you're getting Glass Whisper as part of the build with Executioners, Cloak of Agility, and then it's 150 gold. But the only problem here is that it's going up 400 gold, so this is a big 3,000 gold total item. But what you're getting in return, right? So no attack speed, but what you're getting in return, armor penetration 30%, no movement speed, of course, but you're getting Grievous Wounds as well, right? So 40%. And again, on paper, these changes look pretty juicy. Now, Lord Dominic's Regards, just another kind of like item here. This is getting buffed, so the attack damage is going up by 5. Everything else staying the same, just an AD buff for this item. Now, the other guys, Grievous Wounds item is Bramble Vest. This is getting exactly the same changes. Grievous Wounds going from 25% to 40%, and the magic damage reflected to attackers from 4 to 6. This is big. If you're playing, once again, like a tank top laner, you might be playing Shen, might be playing Mundo, you might be playing something like, what's another one, like Sion, right? These champions, Joyaf, all the tanks in the top lane, maybe even some bruisers might want to rush this. Certain matchups, you never know. This is just big news. And Thormail, pretty much exactly the same, right? The magic damage, well, the actual base damage is staying the same, but it's scaling more off your bonus armor, and again, Grievous Wins 25% to 40%. Guys, those were the 13.1b patch notes, patch changes. Let me know any thoughts you have in the comment section. These read absolutely huge, so again, let me know your thoughts down below. And until our next upload, which will be a 13.1b tier list, this has been a peace.